In this lesson, we're going to look at an alternate mode of operation for the Select by Normal tool. We'll see how we can switch between making contiguous and non-contiguous selections, and we'll look at some practical examples of when we'd use one mode over the other. We can switch the Select by Normal tool into a non-contiguous selection mode by right-clicking on the button and choosing to select all matching normals. So now, when I click on one of these primitives, the tool simply selects any primitive on the geometry whose normals are within the spread angle of the one which I clicked on. So in this case, within 3 degrees of the primitive I selected. In the Select All Matching Normals mode, the tool doesn't grow the selection based on the angles of adjacent primitives. It's not concerned with connectivity. It just selects any primitive whose normal matches the one we click on, within the tolerance specified by the spread angle. On this attribute noise node, if I increase the amplitude to something like 0.05 to exaggerate the deformation, and now select one of these primitives, we can more clearly see that there's no testing based on connectivity going on. These are individual primitives which just happen to have an orientation which is within 3 degrees of the one which I clicked on. So how is this mode useful? Well, if I come over to this file node here, I'm importing the buildings of a whole city. This city model is available as a free download on TurboSquid, and I've included a link to this below this video. Now, if I wanted to select the roof of every single building, then using the Select by Normal mode with the Select All Matching Normals option enabled, I can just click on the roof of one of the buildings, and we see that the roof of every single building gets selected. So now, if I wanted to apply material to the roof of every building, I can just add a material node while hovering my cursor over the viewport, and in the parameters, I'll just browse to a roof material I've already created. And now I have a roof material applied to every single building. It's the Select by Normal mode which has made this very quick and easy to do. If I right click on the Select by Normal button and disable the Select All Matching Normals option, and now I'll click on one of these roofs, we see that only the roof of that specific building gets selected, because the tool's now back in the mode where it makes a contiguous selection by comparing the angle of adjacent primitives. So in this case, the Select All Matching Normals option is what we'd want. I'll come over to another example. And here I've got a file node which is reading in the NeoCities model set from BashKit 3D. This is a free kit which they offer, and I've included a link to the page on the BashKit's website in case you want to download this same asset pack. So if we wanted to select the front face of a wall of one of these buildings, then the default contiguous selection mode of the Select by Normal tool makes it very easy to do this. I can just click on one of these primitives, and we see that all the primitives on the front face of this wall get selected. If I were to turn on the Select All Matching Normals option, and now reselect one of the primitives on this wall, we see that we select every single primitive on every building which is facing in the same direction as the primitive which I clicked on. So in this case, having the Select All Matching Normals option turned off is what we want, because we only want to select a single contiguous area of primitives. If we wanted to do the same and select the front faces of the street-facing walls of this building with the radius corner, then again, the default mode of the Select by Normal tool can make this very easy. If I click on one of these primitives here, we see that I'm only selecting the primitives which are facing this street, and not the primitives facing this street, or the ones on the corner. And that's because the spread angle isn't large enough to grow the selection around this radius corner. If I increase the spread angle to something like 15 degrees though, and now click on one of these primitives again, then we see that the selection is now able to be grown around the corner. The primitives facing this street and the primitives facing this street are at 90 degrees to one another, which of course is a greater angle than a specified spread angle of 15 degrees. But because this selection mode grows the selection by comparing the angle of adjacent primitives, we get this contiguous selection which is grown around a radius corner. The angle between each adjacent primitive around this corner is less than 15 degrees. The selection doesn't go any further than the edges where the wall turns a sharp 90-degree corner though, because across this edge loop, the angle between the adjacent primitives is greater than the specified spread angle. So the Select by Normal mode makes it very quick and easy to select all the street-facing primitives of this wall. So in this lesson, we've seen how we use the Select All Matching Normals option to switch between contiguous and non-contiguous normal-based selections. And we've seen a couple of examples where each of those different methods can be helpful.